Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We've got plenty to talk about today before Cup fever takes full control. And if you're a Celtic supporter, the excitement is already reaching boiling point. Saturday's just around the corner, and with it comes a chance for Celtic to wrap up a historic treble. That's right, the league title's in the bag, the League Cup's already been lifted, and now one final hurdle stands between this team and true greatness. But before we get ahead of ourselves and dive headfirst into that Scottish Cup final chat, there's another story that's just as worthy of our attention. A moment that deserves recognition, admiration, and a bit of pride from every single Celtic fan out there, even if it didn't happen in the green and white. Because folks, something remarkable happened last night. Ange Postecoglou, Big Ange as we know and love him, added another honor to his ever-growing legacy, this time south of the border, and you better believe it was a big one. The Aussie gaffer, once the mastermind behind Celtic's rebirth now, writes his name into European football folklore by guiding Tottenham Hotspur to a Europa League title. Yes, you heard that right. Tottenham, that same club everyone jokes about never winning anything, are now holders of a major European trophy, and it's all thanks to Ange. Now, let's be honest, the game itself wasn't much of a spectacle. A 1-0 final scrappy. Sluggish, or more like a chess match than the thrilling showdowns we usually dream of on European nights. 90 minutes that won't be remembered for the football, but for the man lifting the silverware at the end. That image of Ange smiling proud, hoisting that trophy above his head in front of a sea of white shirts and flashing cameras, that's what this final was about. Not the match, not the tactics, not even the goal. It was about redemption recognition. And a resounding, "I told you so" to all the doubters who questioned him from the moment he walked into English football. And for me personally, I've got to admit it was bittersweet. I've always leaned towards Manchester United, always had a soft spot for the red side of the Premier League. But when the dust settled and that final whistle blew, I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated. I was happy. Happy for Ange. Because if it had to be anyone, I'm glad it was him. The man's a class act. And after everything he's endured, from media criticism, fan unrest, and even whispers about his job being under threat, he stood tall, kept doing things his way, and now he's got the medal to prove it works. It's hard not to feel proud watching that. Celtic fans know exactly what Ange brings to the table. We saw it week in, week out during his time in Glasgow. We watched as he rebuilt a broken team, re-energized a club that had lost its way, and instilled a belief that greatness could be achieved through courage, patience, and attacking football. We knew from the first moment that he was something special, and yet so many outside the Celtic bubble laughed when he made the move to Spurs. They called him a risk, a gamble, a nobody. They said he'd be out of his depth, that he did know. Real football. But look at him now. This win isn't just a personal victory for Ange. It's a statement, a message to the entire football world that quality speaks louder than accent or background. That being different isn't a weakness. That believing in your philosophy, even when the knives are out, can lead you to glory. And let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't an easy path. Managing Tottenham is never easy. The weight of expectation, the pressure from supporters, the constant comparisons to legends of the past, and of course the British media ready to pounce at every setback. Ange handled it all with the same calm, unwavering confidence he showed at Celtic Park. What makes this even sweeter is that he becomes just the second man in football history to both manage Celtic and lift a European trophy as a manager. That's an elite club. That's rare air. And the truth is, it couldn't happen to a more deserving man. He's not just a tactician, he's a leader. He's not just a manager, he's a culture builder. He creates environments where players believe, where fans dream, and where results come as a byproduct of shared purpose. But now, with his European title in his hands, the big question is what comes next. Will he stay at Tottenham and build something even bigger, or will the club in their eternal chaos do what Spurs so often do and make a mess of a good thing? There's already been murmurs from sections of their fan base questioning his style, doubting the direction. And you have to wonder, does Ange really want to deal with that long term? Part of me wishes he'd just wave goodbye, medal around his neck, and walk off into the sunset. But as we know, football isn't a fairy tale. Jobs like that don't come around often, and Ange knows the value of perseverance. Whatever happens next, one thing is clear. His name is now carved into Tottenham's history. And for us Celtic supporters, it's just another reason to puff our chests out a bit more. He was ours first. We believed before the rest of the world did. And we'll always have that connection no matter where his career takes him. Seeing all the highlight reels from his Celtic days resurface this week. All the old interviews, the celebrations, the chants. It just hits different now. It's a reminder of how far he's come and how right we were to back him. So from everyone back in Glasgow, from the terraces of paradise to the pubs and living rooms of Hoops fans all over the world, congratulations, Ange. You did it. You proved them wrong again. And maybe, just maybe, this is only the beginning. Now, speaking of beginnings and endings, let's shift focus back to what's happening here and now. Because there's plenty happening on the Celtic front too. Transfers, rumors, and yes, another final just days away. But before we get to the cup talk, let's address some of the noise surrounding one of our rising stars. Because if there's one thing that never sleeps in football, it's the transfer market. Alright, then let's keep it moving, because while Ange was busy making history down south, there's a bit of a situation brewing back home that we can't ignore. Celtic are on the cusp of something massive with the Scottish Cup final around the corner. But just as we gear up for that transfer talk has started swirling, and some of it's got a few fans a wee bit nervous, the name on everyone's lips. This week, Arne Engels. Now you might have already seen the story doing the rounds on social media. It's not exactly brand new. Been floating about for a couple of days now, but it's gained traction, and I wanted to wait a bit before throwing my take into the mix. It all started with reports out of Italy suggesting that Serie A side Atalanta have been keeping a very close eye on our young midfielder, and not just that. Apparently, they've already made what's being called concrete attempts to bring him over to Bergamo. Now, that's not something you just brush aside. The original buzz came from a piece on Sport Italia, and I went digging to find a full-out article. Buried deep in a section discussing Gasparini's summer plans was a line naming Arne Engels and Morten Frendrup as targets for the midfield. That's right, our boy Arne barely had time to break in his boots up here. Is already being linked with a move to Italy. And of course, it's Atalanta again. Same club that sniffed around Matt O'Reilly last year before he ended up elsewhere. It's like they've got a permanent scout assigned to Lennoxtown. Let me be clear, this isn't me saying he's leaving. Far from it. In fact, I think the chances of him actually moving this summer are pretty slim, but the interest is real. And we need to talk about it. Arne has been one of the quiet success stories of this season. Came in without much fanfare, didn't explode onto the scene with a bang, but slowly and surely proved his worth. The stats speak for themselves, and while some folk are still unsure whether he's Celtic level, they're forgetting just how young the lad is. 21 years old, first full season, and already pulling interest from a top 6 Serie A side that tells you plenty. People get so caught up in expecting instant magic from every signing, they forget that development takes time. Arne's shown composure, intelligence, and serious potential across the year. He's not been flashy, but he's been effective. And that's something every good team needs. The chatter online about whether he's good enough is nonsense if you ask me. He's only scratching the surface of what he can become, and I don't want Celtic letting go of that kind of player too early. We've made that mistake before. The idea that Celtic would consider selling him after just one season feels premature. We paid a hefty fee to bring him in, somewhere around 11 million reportedly. And I don't think the club would entertain any offer that didn't at least double that. Atalanta are clever with their recruitment, but they don't throw silly money around unless they come in with something near 30 million euros. I don't see this going anywhere. Even then, I'd be gutted to see him go. And here's something interesting. If you check out the CIS Football Observatory, which is used to estimate the market value of players, Arne Engels is the only Celtic player currently listed. That's wild on its own, but they valued him somewhere between 21 and 30 million euros. That range alone tells you how difficult it is to pin down a number for a developing talent like him. But either way, it backs up the point. This isn't a player you sell for peanuts. There's too much potential still to be unlocked. If I had to bet, and mind you, I don't like betting when it comes to transfers, I say Arne's staying put for at least one more season. Unless something truly unexpected happens, Celtic will want to give him another year to grow to dominate the Scottish Premiership and to raise his stock even higher. We've seen this story before with others. Let him mature here before cashing in, if that day ever needs to come. Because right now it's about stability and letting Brendan Rodgers build something lasting. Speaking of midfielders, there's another name popping up again. Kalidou Sidibé. We talked about him briefly about a month ago, a towering presence. At 6'7", currently playing for Quevilly-Rouen in Ligue 2 in France. Not exactly a household name, but definitely someone who fits a profile Celtic might be targeting this summer, especially if we end up losing one of our main men in the middle like Reo Hatate or even Arne should the rumors turn into something more serious. Now his manager recently gave an interview in France where he more or less admitted the writing's on the wall. Said that Sidibé knows he's likely to move this summer and that the club's preparing for that outcome. Enter Celtic possibly. The Daily Record picked up on the comments, and while nothing's concrete yet, it's certainly one to keep an eye on. He's entering the final year of his contract and is reportedly valued at around £1.7 million. Not a massive fee and maybe a smart investment if Rodgers wants a big physical presence in the midfield. We all know Brendan loves a technical player, but he's no fool. He knows the value of power and presence, especially in European matches. Sidibé might not be the flashiest signing, but he could offer something different, especially in games where control and structure are needed. But again, we're still in the speculative phase here. Could be something, could be nothing. It all depends on how our own squad shapes up over the coming weeks. Because let's be honest, once this cup final is done and dusted, Celtic will be heading into another massive summer. The foundations are strong, but if we're serious about competing in Europe, about pushing past the group stages and testing ourselves against the best, then the squad will need strengthening. Keeping hold of young talents like Engels is part of that, but so is adding depth, experience, and variation to our play. There's no rest in this game, especially not at the top, and that's what makes this weekend so crucial. Win the Scottish Cup, sail the treble, and suddenly the tone of the summer changes. The mood shifts. Recruitment becomes a matter of pushing forward from a position of strength rather than patching holes. It sets the stage for everything that comes next. And that's exactly why everyone at the club needs to stay focused for one last push. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In a surprise turn that set the Parkhead faithful buzzing with anticipation, Celtic have officially announced the signing of Belgian winger Michel-Ange Balikwisha, ending weeks of swirling rumors surrounding the player's future. The 23-year-old, who most recently impressed at Royal Antwerp, is expected to bring pace, creativity, and flair to Brendan Rodgers' attacking line as the boys look to build on their domestic dominance and make a deeper impact in Europe. So the deal, which had been whispered about across social media and hinted at by several insiders, was finally confirmed in a statement released by the club this afternoon. Balikwisha's arrival marks one of the most exciting signings in recent seasons for Celtic, with supporters eager to see how the dynamic winger will adapt to the intensity of Scottish football and the expectations that come with wearing the full green and white hoops. Balikwisha enjoyed a breakout season with Antwerp, helping the club lift silverware and gain valuable European experience. Known for his explosive pace, technical prowess, and eye for goal, the Belgian international is seen as a perfect fit for Celtic's high-tempo attacking philosophy under Rodgers. His ability to operate on both flanks gives the manager additional tactical flexibility, particularly with a busy domestic and European calendar on the horizon. The move is also a statement of intent from Celtic's board, demonstrating their ambition to reinforce the squad with top-tier talent as they aim to maintain their grip on the Scottish Premiership and challenge on the continental stage. Fans have taken to forums and social media to welcome the winger, many already dreaming of his debut at Celtic Park, where his flair is expected to dazzle under the lights. Rodgers, speaking after the announcement, expressed his delight at it signing, noting Balikwisha's potential and hunger to win. Michel-Ange brings the kind of quality and energy we want in this team. He's hungry, technically gifted, and ready to take the next big step in his career, said the manager. With pre-season preparations underway, all eyes will be on Balikwisha as he begins training with his new teammates and prepares for what promises to be an electrifying chapter in his football journey. Hello fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.